Let me ask you about Ukraine. Russia is hammering Ukraine, artillery, missiles.
Yeah.
Can't Vladimir Putin outlast Ukraine? As this war goes into the second year, this is becoming a war of attrition. Doesn't Vladimir Putin have more ammunition, more artillery to outlast Ukraine?
Well, you're right, Andrea, that Vladimir Putin decided, unprovoked, to start this war. And he has the ability to end it by stopping and getting out.
He's shown no sign of giving up or negotiating.
Well, that is a part of why we will make sure that we do everything possible within our power to strengthen Ukraine's position on the battlefield, so that if and when there are negotiations, Ukraine will be in the strongest position in a negotiation. But to your point, what Russia has done in Ukraine, both in terms of the strategic interests that we have in maintaining the integrity of sovereignty and territorial integrity, and the violation of that, which we thought was part of the norms and rules that had been well established, at least since World War II. What Russia has done that has been a violation of what should be any person's moral interests in terms of how innocent civilians have been treated. Andrea, you know, there's a report that includes the fact that a child as young as 4 years old was the victim of sexual assault by Russian forces. These are war crimes. And so our position and our resolve is quite clear. We will continue to support the Ukrainian people, as evidenced by the fact that we have sent military support ranging from Stingers to Javelins to HIMARS to most recently our commitment to Abrams tanks. We will continue to do the work that I'm doing here in Munich of working directly with our allies, including Germany, our host, who, by the way, Chancellor Scholz should be thanked for what Germany has done to step up its involvement in terms of the military security piece. We will continue to work with allies around the globe. But what Russia is doing is to forcibly attempt to change borders through acts of aggression that are not simply about attrition, but are war crimes. And we take seriously this issue.
Do you have concerns that the American people, with inflation, the other problems at home, over the long haul, as we're now going into a second year, and it could go on longer than that, will the American people be willing, especially with a Republican majority now in the House, will they be willing to stand up for Ukraine and make sacrifices?
I know the American people. I know who we are. And I've seen how the American people feel about this. I've seen it traveling all over our country, to places you might not imagine, where Ukrainian flags are flying in their windows, in the front of stores.
But you've got Congress now to deal with.
Well,
and the Speaker of the House is one of the first speakers not to come to this large bipartisan delegation, the largest
I'm talking
ever.
about the American people. And hopefully our elected representatives will reflect how the American people feel about things like independence, which is a founding principle of our nation, and we take it seriously. The independence of Ukraine, how the American people feel about the atrocities we are seeing, where a woman who was at a maternity hospital preparing to give birth was slaughtered. I know the American people feel a sense of moral outrage and a sense of responsibility for our nation to stand with the Ukrainian people around these atrocities. And I'm confident in that. I'm confident in that.
To that point, there's a State Department-backed report that more than 6,000 children, Ukrainian children, have been taken, deported, sent to re-education camps by Russia. Will Vladimir Putin ever be held responsible? You're a former prosecutor. Will Vladimir Putin ever be held responsible for war crimes?
Well, we are doing everything we can as the United States of America to support the investigations and the tribunals, both in Ukraine and globally, that are gathering evidence and will hold accountable. And you're right, as a former prosecutor, I will say hold accountable and ensure there are serious and severe consequences for the people who have committed these crimes.